So I just watched This Week, George Stephanopoulos with This Week, and had Martha Raddatz doing the hosting, and she had a veteran on there, dog supply, um, dog accessory business owner, and we know that the big jobs, we want big manufacturing jobs, niche sectors such as that, I think is disingenuous to have that as, the pessimist narrative that they want to run with, instead of the proven trajectories with the tariffs that we had in the first administration, and that we're starting to see the people are lining up to negotiate so that we can have this prosperity to be unleashed again. I wanted to touch on how a few months ago, even before that, my analysis of the tariff and the proven track records of them. Before that, I was covering the automobile, the strikes that was going on. When you talk about the longshoremen and the auto manufacturers who had been striking recently, and I had some criticisms about how, the picket line funds were used, the dues that are paid to accumulate funds for to walk the picket line when it's time to negotiate. And I was saying that, those types of funds, it was like $1 billion, and then, $1 billion that they have for these picket to walk the picket lines, and then it's a few days of walking the picket line that's, I feel, is squandering that $1 billion. Now, granted, they were able to get some very favorable wage increases, and that's great. Um, you had a bunch of layoffs right after that, so I haven't weighed that and see how that balanced out, but I didn't think it was going to balance out with the height of those wage increases. Of course, we want wage increases. I would hope that we can get wage increases without the layoffs that had came. But what I was suggesting, though, instead of picket line funds with those dues, that money be invested towards businesses such as the niche the niche business, like who Martha was bringing front and center as a doom and gloom narrative for the steps that's being made to, ensure a robust hiring environment in the U.S. And so, I think that's something that needs to be revisited. That's something that needs to be revisited by the people. It's something that the private sector needs to be on the front of taking the initiative towards. It'd be great if they could lobby Congress and Senate, lobby the branches, so that we can have an FHA type of situation with those types of investments that the employees can make towards, niche entities like that, so that everyone's in a all bootstraps, all hands on deck for the MAGA agenda. I think that's something that needs to be considered. I wanted to point on that real quick. What else? Some other things that was there. Yeah, and I just thought it was interesting. The media, they're certain, they're talking about the 100 days, the first 100 days, and they kind of, it took me. I had to scroll a little bit before I saw some bad assessments, and then you have some of the polls that they're talking about is the same polls that they said was predicting that Trump would lose by a landslide. So I don't think those polls that they're searching for doom and gloom results from are reliable. I don't think that that's something that we should allow to stain our confidence, and optimism that's with the steps that's being taken. I think there's a lot of stability. They want to place the term volatility but I think the favorable results in the market with the actions of Trump so far has been it's been in the black more so than some of the uncertainties. And so I think that's going to continue on that trend as we anticipated. And I think we need to continue to position ourselves to be able to aid and not rely on Trump to have the solutions for everything. You know, we can be. This is like as this is a situation that one of the gentlemen said, Sarah Sudin from Detroit. You know, if he's having the waves, you know, he's creating the waves. We can get out there with our surfboards and enjoy those waves in multiple different ways. And so we need to keep that in mind. We need to keep that in mind and not be you know give the doom and gloom much attention. And that's pretty much all I want to do. I think a lot of the steps are being made. That's great. I'm focusing on my marriages. I'm focusing on repatriation with the continent, and then ensuring that we have that leverage of self-determination towards the family, and a long list of options that's gonna bring. You know, so I'm focusing on my marriage first for this year. You know, if I can get I'm gonna be doing some work with Free Life Records as well, and then looking forward to positioning the International Black Forum to make those types of investments towards those niche businesses. You know, that's what we need to be doing. We need to be supporting those businesses and helping them grow as some of the big sectors make their arrival back. So that's what we need to consider. As the big sectors come back and we continue to get the, you know, sectors such as mine, when we talk about the electrical sectors, you know, in the manufacturing, as we, you know, we need to be diverse in our investment towards those entities that are not as big of a priority individually, but collectively they are, right? Collectively, the small businesses are important, and we all need to have a all hands on deck mindset and strategy to ensure that everyone's you know, able to enjoy the prosperity without much volatility and anxiety and setback and so forth. And so, you know, when you talk about that veteran who they had interviewed, you know, he was saying, hey, I don't have $1 million to expedite the supply chain being established here, but $1 million, you know, when you talk about a collective, like I just said, you know, you had just the auto industry alone, they had $1 billion on standby for walking the picket line, but it was exhausted very, very fast. It was exhausted very fast, but $1 million to that, from that billion, wouldn't have been nothing. And then they could have had some rewards from that. And then those $1 billion, with that same example, with aiding that one veteran for that $1 million. Now that, you know, you have a lot of options now that you can have some investments towards, where we're helping each other out. And then again, you can start leveraging that towards federal government, FHA type of backing of those fiscal initiatives that can be done privately. And so that's pretty much the gist of what I want to touch on. Not going to be long-winded there. I check out a good person who I'm going to recommend to check out, who's for the most part maintaining, you know, the affirmations and the tough love when we talk about family and so forth like that. Anton Daniels out of Detroit there is someone who I would recommend. A lot of the other black media right now are very distracted. They're very distracted with a lot of trivial, non-important, salacious, you know, gossip and stuff like that, and sexual scandals and things of that nature. You know, they were talking about, I just saw a quick post there. It was talking about the brother who got into the incident with Meg Thee Stallion. You had Shannon, Bill Cosby. And so the point that they were making was that, you know, all these people who were within traditional means were striving to, they said Jonathan Majors, you know, they were striving to reach disruptive, they called it disruptive type of accolades. And I don't think that's disruptive if you're that vulnerable with your disruption. If you're that vulnerable with your disruption, then, you know, and then if it's not that self-determined, those are isolationist disruptive measures. And you have to be collective with your disruptive measures that it shields you more. When you talk about Trayor, right now, he's being disruptive. You have a lot of animosity towards that, a lot of self-hate towards that, with the unfortunate Marine general there. And What you have now, though, is a collective, because he's been disruptive within a collective Pan-African structure. Now you have, you know, globally, you know, everyone resisting and showing solidarity with him. And that's the type of solidarity those people lacked, you know. And so when you have a self-determined cultural disruptive agenda of self-determination, now you have the backing of your people, so that the people who are attacking you for being self-determined, now they have to answer to, you know, people who are going to be protecting you. And so you know, these are some of the affirmations that I want to touch on and continue to run the theme with African Times News. Hopefully I can get back up with some journalists who can handle that, the day-to-day activities of the podcast. Is also what I like to do to close out this year. And also, of course, with the Gramarine staffing, getting the training that we need in a lot of these areas that are on demand and that are going to continue to be in demand in the skilled trades. It's the boy Lamont MC, Surface Warfare, Air Warfare Qualifications, man. Free Life Records, blackforumsolution.com, blackforumsolution.com. We're gonna be again, I'm gonna be performing, doing some Free Life Records performances. I would like to have some events before the year out, but I'm gonna focus in on my family, you know, establishing the family. You know, it's been I've been kidnapped from, you know, and so, you know, I'm not trusting, you know, when you talk about someone of my dynamics, I don't, it's going to be beyond hating on me so that I don't get, even Deion Sanders pointed out that, hey, these fathers are being attacked. They ain't even being given the opportunity to raise the greatness that I've been able to do. They're not even being given that opportunity. They're being whiteballed from the get-go. And that's been the situation with me and my boys. And so the solution to that, as I explained, is on the continent where traditional marriage is valued, where women are gonna love you, and the rhetoric that's being ratcheted up against that has no significance, has no substance. It's to be ignored. Okay, you're gonna have your most positive affirmations from Pan-African repatriation, and that's just the bottom line of it. And that's where my focus is gonna be. I'm not doing any gambling. All of the sensible reasoning that I'm able to accomplish with ladies here in the Western Hemisphere is from a collective self-determined understanding of traditional marriage that's based in the continent. That's why I get the most respect in my response and interaction. That's where you're gonna get the most respect and response collectively for your goals, and that's where I intend to stay focused. Again, it's the boy Lamont MC, Surface Air Warfare Qualifications, blackforumsolution.com.